Make sure you don't miss a thing. Go to starzology.com/newsletter and sign up. Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I am your host, Alison Price, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arwynne O'Neill.
Hello, Alison. It's great to be here.
So nice to have you once more. So in this time, we're going to be talking about the two inferior planets, Mercury and Venus.
Yeah.
And they're called inferior because they're between the Sun and Earth. That's why they're inferior.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And what we're talking about here is going to be something slightly different because we're talking about left brain, right brain.
Yeah.
And that is a concept that we can talk about a little bit more. But in general, Mercury rules the brain.
Yeah, totally. Communication, the brain, how you think, how you speak. Yeah.
All of those things.
Yeah.
Whereas Venus doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the brain, but we're floating some ideas, let's put it that way, about what we want to say about Mercury and Venus as a combination within your own chart.
Yeah.
So let's just get some basics down here. So Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo.
Yeah.
And in Gemini, it expresses itself through curiosity, conversation, and the gathering of information. And in Virgo, Mercury becomes more focused and precise, turning its attention to analysis, detail, and practical application. I've always felt that when Mercury's Gemini themed, it's numbers, and when it's Virgo themed, it's words.
Yes, and we've talked about Virgo authors.
Yeah.
Till the cows come home. Editors.
Till the cows come home.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the idea is that, so Mercury's all about collecting ideas and what you do with them and this sort of thing. So traditionally, Mercury's known as the messenger of the gods because it's the closest planet to the sun.
Absolutely.
And maybe you could share a little bit about that myth with us.
Well, for sure. So Mercury was the Roman god, the messenger god, very similar to Hermes in Greek mythology. And this is the messenger of the gods. So meaning that this is the one with the little the wings on his ankles.
Yes.
Yeah. And Mercury would carry messages from Mount Olympus, where the gods were, to humans and back and forth. And also Mercury or Hermes was one of the few deities who could pass into the underworld and back without dying. Because most people, unless you're Hades, the god of the underworld, you are not allowed to come and go as you please. You can only
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, exactly. This is the
so we had a message for the devil while he was at it, didn't he?
Yeah. So he, Hermes or Mercury could go down to the underworld and bring a message to Hades, or from Hades to Earth, or to Mount Olympus, to the gods, and come and go as he pleased, because everyone, it's like, don't kill the messenger,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's that store, isn't there? Hermes. I mean,
For sure. Yeah. Because a messenger bag is
that's a good one.
And parcel, no pun, and very much pun intended. You always have to have a bag to carry the messages. Yeah.
Wow. Even when you're running through Africa with the stuff on a stick, you're still delivering messages.
Carrying things in your head. Yeah, you got to carry it somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So some other themes for Mercury are thinking and cognition, which I think cognition is thinking. Maybe I'm making a boo-boo there. God heavens. Ideas and concepts, writing, language and numbers, buying, selling and trading, and talking, speaking and listening.
Yeah.
These are basic astrological themes for Mercury.
Yes.
And then if we look at Venus now, Venus rules the two signs of Taurus and Libra. Yeah. And in Taurus, Venus expresses itself through the physical world, bringing attention to comfort, resources, money, and what you can build and hold onto.
Yeah.
And in Libra, Venus moves into the realm of relationships, balance, and connection, highlighting cooperation, harmony, and the art of relating to others.
Yeah. Partnerships, negotiation.
Yeah. So Venus is love and money, right? Yeah. It's one of those. Yeah. And then, of course, ancient astrologically wise, it was known as the lesser benefic, the little good planet, because it's kind of Venus generally is good news.
Yeah.
And
the greater benefic being Jupiter, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it represents the principle of attraction rather than effort, showing where life can flow more smoothly. And does this come through in the myth as well, would you say?
Absolutely. So Venus, of course, is the counterpart. Venus is the Roman goddess of love. She's the counterpart to Aphrodite, who's the Greek goddess of love. And they're basically the same goddess. Yeah. Rules beauty, love, grace,
And
graciousness.
who did that art of her standing in a shell?
Oh, the Venus. Oh, yeah. Botticelli.
Ah.
Venus. Yeah. I was thinking of the Venus de Milo, which is the statue with the arms broken off, but yes, and the head. But Botticelli's Venus, she's the one emerging from the half shell. And she, of course, was born from the severed genitals of her father, who, yeah, it's quite a myth. Yeah. So there was a little battle among gods, and her.
So was she the fairest of them all, Venus?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Top billing goddess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Played memorably by Ursula Andress, first Bond girl ever in Dr. No. She's the one who emerges from the ocean in the white bikini.
It was so risque, wasn't it? Then?
Yeah, in 1961, I believe. Yeah, the very first Bond girl, and she then later on in Clash of the Titans in the 1980s. An okay movie, whatever, but she played Aphrodite or Venus, and then sort of reprising that role of the beautiful goddess who emerges from the ocean.
Amazing. Yeah, and a couple more themes regarding Venus is money and earning ability.
Yeah.
Collections and possessions, love and romance, women and girls, art and tangible creations, and color, beauty, and aesthetics.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about today is that if we consider this business of left brain, right brain, which is slightly complicated, it's all neuroscience, but the idea being that your left brain is where you can do thinking and numbers and so on, Mercury stuff.
Yeah. And the left brain is specifically the language center.
The language center.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if we then consider that on your right brain, you are thinking technically in images, colors, and impressions.
It's holistic thinking. So it's more impressions come to you, and there's not a linear. The left brain is linear. The right brain is more holistic. It's about impressions. It's about senses. Yeah.
Yes, which tends to relate to Venus, even though Venus doesn't technically have much to do with the brain.
Right.
But the idea is that if you've got words on one side, if we're going to be very basic, which is Mercury, and then on the other side you've got impressions and images and colors.
Yeah.
And that's Venus.
Yeah.
The artistic color, the aesthetic that we are perceiving unconsciously when someone's yapping at you, and if they're wearing a pink shirt, you're getting an impression and you're memorizing that.
It's the vibes versus the data.
Oh, I like that. Let me make a note about that. So the vibes would, of course, be Mercury.
Venus.
Oh, Mercury.
And the data,
So data, like in Star Trek, he had to be a Mercury, that data guy.
For sure. Well, data, information. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been looking quite a bit into this about how the actual, and I've got some references if you click through to the blog post about where the neurosciences have come up with, since the 60s, they've come up with some certain patterns about left brain, right brain, and it's not clear cut. And I'm acknowledging that. But what I'm saying is astrologically, how we are perceiving the world through our own brains can relate to our Mercury and Venus placements within our charts.
Sure. And if you want to, just a tiny digression, if you want to go down a deep dive about the right and left brain in a neuroscientifically accurate way, Jill Bolte Taylor's TED Talk, My Stroke of Insight, or her actual autobiography book, which I've also read, which is fascinating. But if you want to get the entire encapsulation in 20 minutes, go research her TED Talk, My Stroke of Insight. And it is about an actual neuroscientist who had a stroke and lost the ability to speak and had to reclaim her identity basically through a long rehabilitation process. But it really illustrates the difference between the right and left brain, because she said when she had this stroke in the left hemisphere of her brain, her right hemisphere was all there was. And it was all, she said she felt like she had expanded to the size of the room. She didn't understand how her consciousness fit in her body. She said she felt like her hands were like little claws. She could understand concepts, but not language. She was looking at business cards and trying to find the name of her doctor so she could call for help. And all of it was just like colors and images, which is insane. So it's a terrifying, but yet also really life-affirming bit of information about how the brain works. So if you're interested in that, there's a recommendation. Yeah. A little digression.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As I say, it's not clear cut. I do have some references here about well, I got Huberman and the other,
yeah.
the actual research that gone into this left brain, right brain. As I say, it's not clear cut. However, it's something to discuss astrologically because perception is everything.
And symbols, yeah.
And how we get information in to start with, because if you just learned astrology because someone's yapping at you, you're only going to know so much. But if they show you the picture, that's
yes.
then it makes sense.
100%. I've had so many people say, well, not that many, but a few.
Yes.
What does that look like when I tell them about certain things in astrology? And they're like, okay, I hear you, but what does that actually look like? And I'm like, oh, well, you have to look at the actual chart.
Yes.
We're talking in a bar or like on a podcast or whatever, but you have to look at the chart.
Yes.
And then you'll know what it looks like.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the idea is that we in your natal chart, if you look at your Venus, Mercury, not only their placement by sign and house, you want to, is there an aspect? Yes, we want to know all that stuff. And then the next thing we're actually looking at is to discover if there's a phase between the two. But the point is that wherever your Venus and Mercury are, when they were last conjoined prior to your birth is the beginning of their synodic cycle for you. And that chart will tell you at the position that was, whatever sign and degree that was, that will, and the aspects to it, that will tell you more about how this thinking process continues. So there's like a couple of steps to this. You want to look at your natal chart and say, well, my Venus is here, my Mercury is there, and we want to know about phase. So first we're going to look at
what is a phase? How does that work?
Arwynne, where's your Mercury?
Right.
Where's your Venus? Let's get some basic stuff to start with, because we always are.
Let's use me as an example.
Yes, as we go. So the Mercury position.
My Mercury is in Virgo. It's in the 10th house.
So it's well placed.
I would think, yeah. I'm pretty happy by Mercury. Yes. Mercury rules my life. Yeah.
Mercury rules it, well, right there. So there's talk about emphasis there.
Yeah.
And what about Venus?
Venus is in the 11th house in Libra. So it is also very well placed.
It is. And when we did dispositor trees, we discovered that you had the two, didn't
They're
you?
tied. They're neck and neck.
They're neck and neck. And they are, because it's two independent, you've got two separate.
Two trains,
Yes.
So I've got left brain, right brain in a constant battle. Or are they happy with
you're appreciating both?
Yeah.
It's not just what someone's saying to you, it's
how they're saying it.
And what color's that tie? And have they got an egg stain on? Because that is distracting you.
And you're telling me about this thing, but I'm just staring at your nails because they're fabulous.
Yes. Or there's a dog walking behind and you've got all this imagery coming at you.
Story of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's fine. So is there an aspect between your Mercury and Venus? I don't think so. No. But we would then, our next step at this point would be to then, well, there's two ways to do it. You could go back to the beginning of the synodic cycle before you were born. If you were in astrology, you would calculate that back. We're not going to do that today.
That sounds complicated.
Does it? Doesn't everything about astrology sound complicated?
I bet our listeners are thinking, that sounds complicated. I'm the voice of the listener.
Am I the only one who does this? Come on, guys.
I think you might be.
I might be, but there you go. This is how it thinks. This is how it's going. This is how I explore astrology. It's not just.
I love it.
Yeah, it's not just Mars in the second, Mars in the third. Get beyond that, guys.
Yeah.
So anyway, that would be one way of doing it. The other way is to look at the phase, and we did recently speak about this about Jupiter and Saturn.
Yeah, go listen to that podcast because we go into great detail about how phases work. We're going to give you a little information about that in this episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about phase, we're talking about a phase between two planets. And generally the phase we know about is the sun-moon phase, but we are now going to be looking at the phase that is existing within your chart between Mercury and Venus.
And there are 8 phases.
There are 8 phases. However, Mercury and Venus can only form 4 of them.
There are 4 phases then.
No, you stick with me, Arwynne.
I'm totally with you. Oh, brother.
Okay, so let's just have a look at this. So if we you can click through to the blog post, and there's going to be a handy dandy phase calculator PDF. If you are a returning listener and enjoying the Starzology podcast, supporting the show is always appreciated. It helps us continue producing episodes and covers the costs involved in keeping the podcast online. There's a link in the show notes.
Definitely download and print this. I highly recommend this. This is a game changer for finding out the phase. You print it out and then you lay it physically over the chart. It doesn't have to be a printed chart. You can actually just put the chart up on your screen, on your laptop, whatever, and then hold this little calculator over it and put the little slow tab over the slower moving planet. And in this case, that would be Venus.
Always.
Because Venus is outside of Mercury in the solar system. The only place where that gets a little dodgy and confusing is the sun and the moon, but we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about planets. Venus is outside of Mercury. That means it's moving slower.
Yes. So if we did this to your chart, Arwynne, can you give us a stab in the dark about what your phase is?
I think it's balsamic.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just go through these phases. Let's just go through these phases. Mercury and Venus can only make full phase. So you've got 2 waxing and 2 waning. Yeah. It's because they're close together. That's why they can only do this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the idea is that Mercury tends to dominate the waxing phases and Venus dominates the waning phases. So the new phase begins when Mercury and Venus come together at a conjunction. It marks the start of the new cycle between the mind and the heart. Fresh ideas about relationships, money, creativity, and personal preferences can emerge. There is a sense of beginning again, although the direction may not be fully clear. So that would be an example chart. I have that is for Gary Vaynerchuk. If you know who he is, there's a link on the website because I did do his chart a couple of years ago. Anyway.
Never heard of him.
Yep. Well, really. Anyway, moving on. And then we have the crescent phase.
Yeah.
So as Mercury moves ahead of Venus, the connection begins to grow. This is a time of exploration and adjustment. You may start to test new ideas about what you like, how you communicate, and what feels worthwhile. Effort is needed to build confidence and give shape to this emerging values. Because if we talk about the plant cycle, which we'll do in a moment, you'll see that that's the balsamic phase. So an example chart I have for that is we did a chart for someone called Bella Boom, who was one of our listeners, and she has the crescent phase between Mercury and Venus. So
my mother has that too.
Oh, she does. Okay, yeah, we don't have her chart on the. We must get her on. You've got to interpret her chart. Yeah. So that would be an example of the crescent phase between Mercury and Venus.
Yeah.
And then the waning phases. So there's only 2. And the last quarter phase is the first phase here. So here tension can arise between what you think and what you feel. You may question your choices or reassess how you relate to others. And this phase encourages reflection and change. This is the time to let go of outdated patterns in communication or values that no longer fit your current situation.
Interesting.
So I don't have any examples for last quarter phase.
One of my friends. But,
okay, one of you. Well, I'm sure a quarter of the population will have this. But yeah. And then we get to the interestingly balsamic phase.
Yeah. We say interestingly because it's both you, me, and a
bunch of people.
Your niece and our superfan Bo.
Yeah. So this is the closing phase part of the cycle, just before Mercury and Venus meet at the conjunction. Again, now there is a sense of completion and release. Old ideas about love, money, and self-worth may fade, making space for something new to form. So it is a quiet, more reflective time where insight typically comes through letting go rather than pushing forward. So I do have an example there. I've put a link now on the blog post. There's a link through to the interpretation we did for Bo's chart. He's got balsamic phase between Mercury and Venus. There is a link through to Maxie. She has a balsamic phase between Mercury and Venus. And there's a link through to Super Jupy, which is, my sister.
Yeah.
And I've got her chart there to actually show you what we're talking about. That Mercury and Venus Mercury is moving towards Venus because Mercury's faster moving and it's moving towards to make that conjunction again at some point in the future after she was born.
Yeah.
So that's why it's balsamic. I'm also noting here that she's got Venus in Pisces, which is Venus is exalted.
Right.
And in your chart, remember, both are in dignity and rulership. They are both pretty strong.
Right.
Because if we wanted to do an assessment in your chart, for example, is Mercury stronger than Venus. What did we have a conclusion, or are we saying they're neck and neck?
Well, they're sort of neck and neck, but I think we decided that Mercury was stronger because it rules my sun, Mercury, and moon.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which just sort of outweighs the Venus because
Yes.
yeah,
And yet, if we look in your life,
yeah, they're pretty
neck and neck, aren't
they're
they?
pretty neck and neck. Yeah.
Because you work as a writer and you produce God knows how many words a week.
And then I also create art, and I'm also
And you create art
just
at a great level.
tiny bit obsessed with beauty and fashion and fun and
Cosplay and
decorating my apartment and
dance,
dressing up and roller skating and doing some dancing.
You don't just write and that's how you express yourself.
Right. No,
you have a whole thing going.
I'm not just writing by day and then going home and cuddling up on the couch and watching
Yes. So I do think they're neck and neck for you. As I say, we did pull that from the dispositor tree because they're both top.
Yeah.
And in a way that's handy dandy for you, Arwynne, because you can tap into both.
Yeah.
And probably when your impressions that go into, dare I say, when things go into your head, are you getting an equal dose of both?
Right. Totally. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Now, in my chart, I've got Mercury's in Leo, and so neither here nor there, but it's conjunct the ascendant. And Venus is in Virgo, so it's in its fall. So it's not that well placed.
Yeah.
But Mercury dominates. So I do tend to, I read, I listen.
Yeah.
And I can remember what you told me a while ago.
Yeah.
I don't forget things. And people are surprised, saying, oh, I'm surprised you remember that. I told you that 10 years ago. I said, well, yes, why would I forget it?
Right.
But anyway, and recently when I had a problem with the ambulance and an ambulance had to come and pick me up, and the guy said to me, my name's Peter, blah, 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 this and that. And then at the end he said to me, can you remember what my name was? Because he thought I had a brain injury. I said, it's Peter. He said, yes, you're doing well.
Aww.
And I thought, yeah, because I listened to all the trivia.
Yeah.
The trivia, it was so Virgo. But anyway.
That is so interesting. And a teeny digression. We talked recently about my trip to Mexico.
Yeah.
If you're interested in that, you can go to my blog, mspink.net, and check out my Murals of Mexico post, where I was obsessed. We were there for a week. I had never visited Mexico before. We went to Playa del Carmen, which is an amazingly beautiful city, very touristy, but also like very, very authentic and wonderful. And we just walked forever and spent a ton of time in the sun. But I was obsessed with documenting the murals and taking pictures of this incredible art, the street art.
But Venus.
But also, simultaneous to that, in addition to being obsessed with the art and also beautifying myself in the form of like being, in the sun and tanning constantly, because I do love a tan, was just reconnecting with the language, because I studied Spanish literally only 2 years in high school, have not ever been to a Spanish speaking country since then, but it came back to me in a flood. It was so funny how I was able to, just in a tiny, and I kept saying, I would walk into a store and they'd be like, habla español, do you speak Spanish? And I would say, oh, poquito, but then I would be able to actually have a conversation. And
because you could tap straight into that left brain Mercury.
100%. Yeah. And just remember somehow just enough to have like great conversations with people and actually surprise them with how much I could understand. This one guy, had a taco stand, and his wife was there with his small child. And I said, oh, muy linda, just very pretty. And he said, oh, gracias. Do you have children? ¿Tienes hijos? And I said, no, dos gatos, only 2 cats. And he says, oh, no quieres hijos? And I said, no, which means you don't want children? And I said, no, I don't want children. And,
there's a question.
My friend is looking at me like, how are you having this? What is,
And you're digging into your memory banks.
Yeah.
From 30 years ago.
Yeah. By the end of the week, my friend was like, can you translate for me? And I'm like, we walk into a store, like, how much is Cuánto cuesta? How much is this? She wants it for her daughter, para su hija, and they're like, oh, ¿qué dos años es su hija? And I'm like, oh, she's 15, etc. Yeah, but it was just the Venus Mercury thing. It was very much in play.
I saw that when I saw your article, your beautifully written article with exquisite writing, and then the murals, and I thought, go Arwynne.
Murals are so amazing. I wish every city had such a
mural culture.
I do, and Vancouver does. I mean, to be fair,
we do.
East Van, we have a mural fest, and it's coming along. We do have public art, but yeah, I mean, it's just such a wonderful way to, and it's AI can't replace that ever. There's no, murals by AI,
Oh, no, of course not. No,
it's a physical thing.
That's on its way out.
Yeah. And it's just wonderful. Yeah. So Venus and Mercury.
So because they're so, here's what I'm trying to get to is that because Mercury and Venus are so prominent as planets within your chart, you are tapping into both of these energies in a big way.
In a balance.
Whereas the guy standing next to you is not.
Maybe
because
he's
they're
just all
not
Mercury.
prominent.
He's an engineer. He's all Mercury. He does not understand it. When his wife says, like, I want to get my nails done. Do you like this one or that one? He's like, why are they so long and pointy? I don't get it. What's going on?
Yes.
I don't understand why you do that. And she's like, oh, Well,
it's like when you get your hair done and I say, and you say, what do you think of my hair? What happened?
They don't even see it. Yeah, exactly.
So that's the thing. Whereas things like art, aesthetic, color, and design and structure of clutter on the wall, I know what I'm talking about. You either see it and appreciate it, and it's often subconscious because it's going straight in, or you're oblivious to these things because your Venus is so not a planet you're using.
Right. And sometimes if your Venus is stronger than your Mercury, you may just have impressions of things and be put off by things and not know why, not be able to articulate why. Because Mercury isn't strong enough for you to actually be able to say, oh, I don't like this because this color clashes with this, or this is, all of the furniture is placed too low. I feel uncomfortable. I walk in and I can't relate to it. Or, everyone's wearing weird things and I don't feel whatever. But you can't explain it.
It's true. And
you feel it though.
You see it too, I think, in people's dress style.
Yeah.
Venus comes through, and I see it particularly in you. I mean, you're always beautifully put together in your own unique style. It's not stuff I would wear.
I'm wearing like a t-shirt and jeans right now, but thank you.
But it's the Miss Pink vibe.
Yeah, exactly. It's a t-shirt. Yeah.
And that too comes through that is a conscious choice.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your wardrobe palette is clearly entirely different to mine.
Yeah.
Not that we're the same person, but because your Venus is prominent, you are able to work with design, concepts, and color as well as words, which is honestly a good thing. And these are just two planets we happen to be hitting on. We did speak about other planets last week, but they're not hitting as high for you as these two are. That's what I'm trying to say.
Sure. And also, these are like the inner planets. We've got, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and obviously those, and the Moon. Yeah. But these are the inner planets. And so they're obviously going to be a little bit more powerful in everyone's chart. I don't think we talked about Jupiter and Saturn in a previous podcast in their phase. Those are obviously going to be powerful, clearly.
Yes.
But the inner planets are much more about your personality versus they're not a generational feel. They're like very specific to you. So these are the ones that you're actually going to be like, you're feeling that in your personality when someone describes your Venus or your Mercury placement. You're no doubt you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's why I have a learning disability. Or like that's why I can't walk into a room where there's clashing colors and I can't even concentrate if something is off visually.
Yes, yes.
And then you know why.
And it also shows what you talk about, that you're not short of conversation.
Totally.
When
you talk about movies or whatever, are you talking about the plot or are you talking about the cinematography? Yeah, or some TV show, like let's say Breaking Bad, like that very great balance of beauty and the cinematography of the Southwest, the American Southwest, Santa Fe and New Mexico, or the brilliant dialogue. So it's very well balanced, that particular show. There's other shows where it's all visual and the dialogue is a little dodgy, whatever. Or maybe it's all dialogue but yet visually boring. The movie Heat comes to mind. Michael Mann's movie, visually not that great, not that interesting, but the dialogue sparkling.
And you are aware of this.
Yes, constantly.
And the reason is because your Venus and Mercury are prominent within your chart. Mm-hmm. So obviously you're leaning in and using it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas others do not do that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know where some other example charts, what you have, perhaps some people within your family and so on. Personally, I find that the Mercury for me is dominant because it's more prominently placed in my chart, and it's reading, writing, and I have, as you know, published books, and I've got 42 books now on Amazon. Can you believe it? No, I can't either. Yeah. But I also have a wrote and illustrated a children's book, and that's also available. And I'm thinking, how did I even do these things? But it's just because the urge is there to create the thing together. But Venus is not as prominent as the Mercury.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's shown by the placement of the planet within the sign. So to our listeners, you need to assess which is more prominent for you between Mercury and Venus, because we're getting deep into advanced natal astrology now to say, what should you be leaning towards? Because we're not all the same.
Right.
And
it's like that corporate thing of like, lean into your strengths.
Yes.
You have to know your strengths first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And also if you're doing consultations and people are saying, I need to do this and that, you need to be able to make an assessment about these planets.
You can't be good at everything.
No.
I mean, I personally recommend being, a generalist. Try to understand a little bit about everything, but you can't be an expert at everything.
No.
And it's good to know what you are naturally inclined to be good at, because then you can lean into those things. It's good to know a bit about everything, but lean into what you're naturally accustomed to or naturally have a proclivity for being
proclivities for. Yes, indeed. Yeah. And typically, if you got Mercury or Venus as your chart ruler, i.e., they rule the sign on the ascendant, that is a clear indicator of which one is more likely to be prominent. And you want to lean into your strengths, and that would be which are your strong planets.
Yeah.
And what phase are they in? And therefore, how are you likely to best use this energy in your own birth chart?
Totally. Well, here's an interesting example. If you're trying to figure out which is stronger, and if you haven't done the dispositor tree thing yet, if you haven't, oh my God, go to the notes at the bottom of the show and figure that out. But my partner famously is a Scorpio. He has Venus in Virgo, which is in its detriment. Fall, excuse me. Of course, it's the fall, exactly. But yet he also has Libra rising. So, and Mercury in the first house. So Mercury is strong because it's in the first house in Scorpio, and he also has that Libra rising. Mm-hmm. So they're a little bit balanced in that sense, even though he does. That
Mercury first house comes through as soon as you see him.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
As I said before, he's always got the questions of this and that, blah, blah, blah.
Totally. And he's always got the data. He's always following along. He knows, about everything, and he loves to be very authoritative about stuff. He's got the YouTube channels about the, nutrition and the stock market and, well, of course, hockey.
Data.
Data.
Who won the 1969 baseball
and the politics and stuff, which I love absolutely to know about this stuff. But then, and so you would think that he would be farther, very mercurial between the two. But then there's that Libra rising, and it's like, he's the one person I know I can actually ask him legit, does this look bad on me? Is this flattering? And
do these pants make me look fat?
100%. And he will not say fat, but he will be like, no, that's not flattering. Like, no, that color, no.
He could see aesthetics. Yes.
Yeah. And he'll be like, why are you wearing that color with that? No.
Yes.
That's not good.
Yes. No,
Stop wearing that waistline. Why do you do that? It makes you look pregnant, and you're not overweight. Don't do that.
I know my mother finally decided that he just put things on that were in the drawer. And she eventually got to the point where he only had blue things and black things.
Well, he probably had some color blindness.
Probably.
We didn't even know. Like,
exactly.
11% of men are colorblind, red, green colorblind.
Well, she got rid of all the grays and browns and wouldn't let him wear them.
Fair. Yeah. That's a good idea.
So, So if we look at Super Duper, which we're going to talk about because we got it right here in front of us, nice. Venus in Pisces is in exaltation. Yeah. It is very concerned with aesthetics.
Yeah.
And I know she trained as an esthetician back in the day, and is always beautifully pulled together. That is, you never see a hair out of place. Whereas that Mercury in Aquarius is not necessarily so. There's a lot of fragmentation and bits of information all over the place, not necessarily cohesive, but the Venus would probably dominate in her particular chart. Yeah. I'm just saying. So get back to me, Super Duper, if you don't see it that way. Additionally, we also want to pay attention to, is Mercury or Venus one of the morning planets? We have done an episode on that. Yeah. Go and check that out and consider that too. You want to look at the main planetary complexes too.
Yeah.
So anyway. Okay, so we've been talking about Mercury and Venus and how left brain, right brain may be related to your Venus and Mercury placement within your chart.
Yeah.
Now, these are just some ideas we've had.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily mainstream astrology, but this is the point about astrology, is that you need to think about the chart and think about how else can your chart be represented in your life.
Yeah. And it's a metaphorical language. I mean, we know the brain hemispheres are a real thing. We know the
Yes.
planets are a real thing. We know personality types are a real thing. We know there are some people who are more cerebral than they are aesthetic, and vice versa.
Yes.
And then some people are both, and some people are neither. And
yeah. And a lot of it can come back to your Mercury-Venus combination. And again, this is not one of the first things you're going to look at in a chart, but it's something that you would want to consider, which I do, and clearly Arwynne does.
100%.
And you want to, the idea is to, if you want to understand someone's chart, you've got to go past, as I said, Saturn in the first house, Saturn in the second house.
Yeah.
Yes, you need to know that. But from there, you have to start thinking about how else can this chart be interpreted?
Yeah.
And even though astrology most of the rules were set down 2,000 years ago, and recently there's been a lot of inroads into astrology, it doesn't mean that you are not the person who can have a whole new idea about how these planets are working or how the chart is. And that's what I'm encouraging. And we like to say, that we want to keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
So our dream is that when you listen to our podcast, you've got something to mull over during the week and even think about later and consider, maybe what about this? What about that? And maybe you get an idea about doing something different with a chart and saying, let me explore that further. Don't think the rules are set in concrete and nothing new can be learned.
Absolutely.
That's what I want to say.
Don't assume everything has been discovered or explained.
Yeah, because new things are coming up all the time and new ways of interpreting. And you would interpret a chart the way you do. I do it my way. Arwynne does it her way. Yeah. Okay, great. So if you have found value in this episode, please do consider sharing it with anybody who would be interested. Make sure to give us a like and a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Make sure you're getting our newsletter, and that comes out every Sunday. You can sign up at starzology.com/newsletter. Additionally, make sure you're following Arwynne, and you can find her at...
I'm at mspink.net, MSPINK, and I send out my newsletter every Saturday.
Yeah, and great it is too.
Thank you.
Yeah. So to our listeners, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks so much for getting this far through the episode. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the 2 main options of my astrology services. So the first one is coaching. If you are an aspiring astrologer, and by that I mean someone who's perhaps a hobbyist astrologer, or someone who's learning astrology, or a student, or you've got a few books and you've been doing it for a while, but perhaps you need a little bit of help to bring it all together, then maybe getting some astrological coaching from me would be the answer for you. The astrology coaching I offer is a 1-hour session on Zoom, and it's tailored to answer your particular questions. For example, if you have issues with natal chart readings, we can go there. Or if you're having problems working with your forecasting, we can go there. Or even basic astrology stuff, or even getting yourself organized for your astrology business. The idea is that astrological coaching will answer your particular questions. It's tailored specifically to you and where you are in your astrological journey. And I'm happy to help you out with some guidance about how you can get going, what to focus on, and what to dismiss. So that would be the astrological coaching for people trying to learn astrology. The second astrological service I offer is consultations. So this is for someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about astrology, but they just want to have their chart read or get their chart done. Call it what you will. So once more, this is a 1-hour consultation over Zoom. I will interpret your chart, tell you about the main features, tell you about where the energy is flowing, and all the rest of what is entailed in a thorough natal chart interpretation. I can also add in some forecasting in there too, bearing in mind we only have 1 hour. So just in summary, I've got coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and I've got consultations for those who want to get an astrology reading done. I'm Alison Price from Starzology.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.